I'm Tom Zanton, and today I want to talk about a common carnivore talking point, which is that they like to say that plants are trying to kill you. And hey, they're right. Sometimes. Sometimes plants are trying to kill you. Some parts of some plants are trying to kill you. But that's actually a good thing. It should be information that we can use to help us figure out what we really should be eating. So let's get into it and let me explain. So, like I said, some plants and some parts of some plants are either trying to kill you or trying to hurt you in some way. Is essentially trying to prevent you from overeating that plant. Like if you're if the plant is like a leaf, like allow you can't allow you can't allow like animals to just eat all of the leaves because that's no good for the plant. So yes, the plants do create chemicals which are natural defenses against overeating, but not all plants and not all parts of each plant. The obvious exception to this is edible fruits. Edible fruits want to be eaten. Like that's the whole point of being a sweet, delicious fruit is that you're trying to convince an animal to eat the fruit because it has the seed, and then they go off somewhere else and they poop it out and produce fertilizer for the seed so that it can grow somewhere else. And obviously you can say, well, domesticated fruits are way sweeter, and like yeah, like those are good, but like wild fruits are no good. But first of all, that's not totally true because there are wild berries that I pick all the time around here, um, and those are just fine the way they are. And also, like it doesn't matter if um, like like raw wild fruits like aren't that appetizing because we're the cooked food species. We like to cook our food. You can take lots of foods that would be considered unpalatable, and then you cook them, and then they taste great. So, as far as fruits, obviously, it's not the case that fruits are trying to kill you. At least most cases. I mean, there are some fruits that are toxic, but still, in a lot of cases, fruits want you to eat them. Okay, setting fruit aside, what about the rest of the plants the rest of the time? So one of the main talking points that I'll hear is uh, something called they'll talk about something called anti-nutrients. So anti-nutrients are things like phytates, lectins, oxalates, things that are found in plants in high concentrations in some foods that can be toxic to humans. But I think this is a great thing. This should give us lots of information about what foods we're meant to eat in like what proportions. So one of the anti-nutrients that people talk about is something called phytates. So phytates are shown to be healthy in very small proportions, but they can block absorption of certain minerals at high proportions, and we don't have the enzymes to break them down. So that's interesting for a few reasons, because I think that it's telling that phytates are good if you get a little bit of them, but they can be bad if you get a lot of them. Um, if they were bad at every level, I think that would say something different about them. So foods that have a lot of phytates and other types of anti-nutrients are like grains, beans, and nuts. They tend to have a lot of phytates. They tend to have more of the other anti-nutrients as well that people talk about. So, but these foods are shown to be healthy often when added to the standard American diet. When people do studies, these foods are usually healthy. Adding like a small dose, so maybe a small dose is the right amount of these foods in order to get the right amount of these anti-nutrients. So it's not too much that is actually hurting you, but it's enough that you get the benefit from the rest of the food. But that being said, I think it's really interesting that root vegetables, and if you've watched this channel, you know that I think we're made to eat root vegetables. Root vegetables tend to be really low in most anti-nutrients, pretty much all of them. So I think that's really interesting, and maybe it says, hey, maybe that's what we're supposed to be eating. Root vegetables, in most cases cooked, because we're the cooked food species, and that would fit in pretty well with the fact that we have extra salivary amylase in our mouths, starch digesting enzymes in our mouths. That would fit in really well with the fact that we seem to be co-evolved with starch-eating gut bacteria. If you say, oh, well, there are anti-nutrients in plants, so we have to give up all plants, then all of a sudden the starch-digesting enzyme in our mouths makes no sense. The starch-degrading bacteria in our gut makes no sense. But if you say that this one group of foods that doesn't have a lot of anti-nutrients also seems to feed our good gut bacteria, it makes sense with the saliva that we have. It would have been easy to forage. It would have been available in dry seasons, cold seasons, even after a wildfire. Maybe that's the food we're made to eat. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it makes sense to say, oh, well, we're made to eat a lot of meat because there are anti-nutrients in some foods, some plant foods are trying to hurt you. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. There is a question, what about the root vegetables which are toxic? Because there are some. I think, no animal is made to eat every type of its preferred food group, or at least plant-eating animals. Case in point, there are some grasses that are toxic to cows, but I don't think anyone's going to sit here and make the argument that, well, since there are some grasses that are toxic to cows, cows shouldn't eat grass. I mean, I think people will agree that cows should eat grass, they just shouldn't eat the ones that are toxic to them. So, yes, there might be some root vegetables which are toxic. There might be some compounds in them that some people could handle and others can't. But in general, I still think we're made to eat root vegetables, and all of the pieces kind of fit. And if you say, hey, we're made to eat meat just because there are anti-nutrients in some foods, or there are some root vegetables that are toxic, I still don't think that makes a lot of sense. So I hope you found this interesting and enjoyable. And if you did, please be sure to like and subscribe, and always remember to eat your root vegetables. Thank you.